The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread." He said in reply, "It is written, one does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand on the parapet of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Then the devil took him up to a very high mountain and showed him on the kingdoms of the world in their magnificence. And he said to him, "On this I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me." At this, Jesus said to him, "Get away, Satan. It is written, the Lord your God shall you worship, and Him alone shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My brothers and sisters, at the very beginning of Lent, we often hear about what's so-called temptation of Christ. The temptation of the one who is God and man. We need to know that Jesus is the person of human and also the person of God. With that fundamental understanding, we can understand why He was tested and why and how His temptation has become a lesson for us. The second reading was taken from the epistles, the apostle letters to the Romans, explaining in technical terms of scripture study. We call today the three reading is sandwiches, because the first and the second was connected by the first and the third was connected by the second reading. The second reading was taken from the books of apostle letters. This one particularly wrote to the Romans. The first one was taken from the very first book, Genesis, and the third one was taken from the beginning of chapter 4 of Matthew. So the second reading explained, because at the very beginning, the first human being disobeyed God. Therefore, many generations have to live in sinfulness. God had used the prophets to help people and enable people to return to God with their pure heart God created, but it was unsuccessful. Human beings could not resist the temptations that placed before him or he encountered along the way. And human beings had thought nothing that we, people of God, can do because Adam had sinned. On the teachings of God through the prophets can only encourage us, but cannot pave a pathway for us. Therefore, as the second reading pointed out, if one disobeyed and fell and brought the next generations into the sinful state of being, in Jesus, because of his obedience, he could restore what had lost and gain human being back into the dignity that God had created. Therefore, if you read theological books of reflection, you have heard or read the term of new Adam as they describe Jesus. New Adam in Jesus' identity is not the new person of the old person, but the restoring dignity that the person of Adam had lost. In other words, if Adam only looked at himself and seek for his satisfaction, he fell. Jesus looked at God and did not find satisfaction for himself, but instead find salvation for all humankind. Therefore, he overcame the temptation. The temptation of Christ in the Gospel of Matthew was divided into 3 stages. The very first temptation came, as Matthew reports, after 40 days that Jesus was led into a desert place by himself and God, where he did not eat anything. Maybe he did drink some water. Why did Matthew describe so detailed and visible that Jesus put himself in a desert place without food and people for 40 days and 40 nights? Why did Matthew explain such details? The 40 days of cycle night and day, sunshine and darkness, reflects the 40 years of people of God after they left Egypt. The 40 years journeys on which they were hunger for God, but could not wait for God. They did go astray to satisfy themselves. They did not look for God's plan. They could not wait for God's promise. They were rushed to find what they could grasp by themselves. This also portrays the situation of Adam. In the first reading, God asked Adam, "Now you can enjoy everything but one thing. wait for my instruction. Adam did not listen. Eve did not listen. They want what they wanted. They pay attention on their own desire instead looking for God's plans for them. So the first temptation after the 40 days, Matthew said Jesus was hungry. Hungry describes the very fundamental state of weakness of a human being. When I was a novice in 2000, one of the first lessons that my novice master, Father Bob Pambrini, taught us is because we dedicated ourselves to God and serve people, we need to be in good balance. Never let yourself be too hungry, too angry, and too exhausted. Because when you let yourself into such circumstances, you lose your balance, you lose your control. You will not know what you're doing. So Matthew describes Jesus at the very weakness situation. He wants someone to help him to overcome his hunger, his emptiness. So the tempter, Matthew described the devil as the tempter, the person who tries to lure another person, show off something that is artificial, not real, so that people can find some pleasure and satisfy themselves. Make this stone to become bread. Feed yourself to show us that you are the Son of God. Would you do that? If somebody asks you, in order to show that you are Christians, make something happen, what could you do? Think if somebody run into you in a great need, ask you to do something or to ask God for something or to pray for some miracle happen to show that you are a real Christian, what could you do? Would you pray? Yes? Why not? Would you try to do something for them? Yes. Why not? But if you pray and God didn't let anything happen, what would you do? Does God exist? In this situation, when Jesus asked by the tempter, make something happen so that I can church you, Son of God, what did Jesus do? He responded, we don't live the same value of yours. We don't live by bread alone. And if we go to the second temptation and the third temptation, the devil, the bad spirit, always show you something that can give you opportunity to be selfishness. Just do something to show you. Do something that people can trust you. Do something that people can come believe you. Only the you. Only the you. The same pattern as Adam was tested. Only you, not God. If Jesus lived the you in himself to show the devil, okay, I can prove you I'm the Son of God. Boom, happened. Why didn't he do that? Because Jesus was the one who shared the desire of God's Father. He did not come to prove himself, but God's Father proves him. And how did God prove Jesus, his Son? His Son's mission is to come and be God's love for the world. Not emotional and individual love, but salvific love. The love of a good parents that only want to teach the children the right way. The love that good parents can cry by themselves to let the daughter or the son to receive treatment, medical treatment, to overcome a sickness. Have you experienced being a mom or a dad, bringing your child into ER, emergency room, seeing your child crying, and seeing the doctor rush him or her into the operation room and give treatment? You were blocked outside of the operation room, knowing nothing inside but one thing: the doctors are trying to save my child. God's love is rather further than human parents' love. He knows in order for us to be saved, we have to go through on the tests and difficulties. He didn't dare to let human beings to be tested alone, but sent Jesus to come in a real human being and receive on the tests that any human being would taken. The only one thing that makes difference between Adam and Jesus, between the victory and the loser, is obedience. It's not too realistic. It's not too idealistic, but in reality, you can see the children who listen to their good parents' advice, they can become good students. The parents who do not listen to the advice of their good parents, they fail at school. And the future will turn into what they had begun at school. So today, Gospel show us the weakness of Christ and the victory of His love. In a human being, He endured all the difficulties and temptations and circumstances and situations that any human being would face. But He showed us a model. When you face with difficulty, look beyond what before you. Don't look at yourself. Look beyond of what before you to see the end of your life and make decision. If you just look at you, if I just look at myself, if I just look at the difficulty I am facing, I find somebody to help or find a way to look out of it. And then, can it be saved? No. Another bad day comes. We face with another circumstances and situation. It's on and on and on and on. If you look at this one, and you turn away, you look at the other one. But if you look beyond the pillar here, you see the street in front of the cathedral. So Jesus set a model for us. If you want to have a good life, look beyond what you have, to the point of who you are. Who are we? We are the children of God who loves us. If you go to any group or club or organization, people look at your curriculum vitae or biography, and label you and categorize you. But for God, we are equal. No matter how good you are, how bad you are, how beautiful you are, how ugly you are, how good health or bad health you are, we are His children. If you come to a need to make a decision, knowing that we live only this life, then the decision will be a short stage. If you come to make a decision knowing that our life beyond that and beyond this barrier of life or the blockage of life, you know, with God's help, you can overcome it. To make a small understanding, I give you an advice for this week. Whenever you see someone right after this Mass, a person at the gate, a person on the street, a person at the parking, a person at the restaurant, a person at the shopping center, or tomorrow you see your colleague, the co-workers, the guard at the company, the taxi driver, anyone. Ask yourself, where will he or she be after his or her death? Where he or she, where the person you see, be after death? Where will I be after death? You know where you will be after death? You know? You wish, you pray, you strive for that death to come to be united with God. Everybody has been given that ability. So if you know that one day in the future we all will stand and sit next to one another before God and with God, you know what to do. You know how to treat that person. You know how to interact with that person so that in the future when you see him or her again, you will not be ashamed. If you take a cab to go somewhere and mistreat that driver, you maybe think that, okay, I won't see him again. I have a choice. If I see that license plate or that taxi number, I say, okay, no, I have another car. You can avoid people. If you think for yourself, your convenience, if you think beyond that, you cannot escape anyone. In the end of your life, everybody will be standing around God in front of Him and with one another. Think of that day and don't live in shamefulness. Proudly to be God's children and live every day fully as God's children.